was first elected to the House of Delegates in 2017, succeeding the retiring Speaker of the House, Bill Howe. As delegate, he represents the 28th district, which includes Stratford County, the city of Fredericksburg, currently serves on the county Cities and Towns, Transportation, and Science and Technology Committee. Delegate Thomas was born and raised in Sandusky, Ohio. Shortly after graduation, Bob joined the United States Marine Corps in 1995 at the age of 18. Left Ohio and began his service serving his nation. He spent nearly 4 years stationed in Okinawa, Japan, until he was transferred to Marine Corps Base Quantico in January of 2000. Bob and his young family loved the Fredericksburg area so much that after he was honorably discharged from the Marines in 2003, he decided to call Stratford County his home. Today, Delegate Thomas still lives in Stratford County with his wife, Christy, and their 8 children, which I applaud you for that.
Did you read that right, Bill?
8 children. When he has not performed his legislative duties, he serves as the president and CEO of Breakout, a software company that he founded in 2006. As most of you know, Delegate Thomas is no stranger to local government. In 2011, he was elected to the Stratford County Board of Supervisors for the George Washington District. In 2015, he was re-elected and ultimately served as chairman of the board. In 2016, before running for the House of Delegates, Delegate Thomas has an extensive history with Breakout, having previously sat on the Budget Committee, Finance Committee, and served as Breakout's president-elect before being elected to the House of Delegates. So let's welcome Delegate Terry Kilgore and Delegate Bob Thomas.
Can y'all hear me okay? We just sit right here and have a conversation. It's great to, oh there it is. It's great to be here this afternoon on a rainy Monday. And you know, I've had the privilege of serving in the General Assembly since 1994. I was elected as a young child, but I'm just kidding. But anyway, it's you know, first thing I want to say that politics has really changed since 1994. It's I don't know how many of you out there, but I don't think anybody enjoys politics anymore. I don't think anybody else does. I enjoy serving, but you know, with politics. A lot of times now with social media and things like that, people can get behind whether it's their phone or a computer and say whatever they want to about any of us, and there's nothing we can do about it, and it just makes governing a little bit harder. But that's something that, you know, I just wanted to throw out there. I know that you all are on the front line every day as it relates to whether it's something somebody is coming before your board on, or some zoning appeal or something, you know, however y'all do all this, a lot of the constituent services, you see a lot of different people, but, you know, the things you know, something that, you know, I want to suggest we do, it's time that we get back to, you know, talking to each other instead of talking over each other or talking about each other. You know, one of the first things when I got elected, my seatmates, I sit between, I don't know if anybody remember these names, Vance Wilkins was on one side and Clint Miller was on my other side. So I would sit there and they probably couldn't agree that it was Monday most days, and I'd be sitting there. But one thing they did taught me was you sit down with your adversaries. You sit down and listen to them, have coffee or talk to them, or go out and have lunch with them. And that's one thing after that first session I did, you know, some of the folks that really campaigned hard against me in '94, I set up a lunch meeting or set up a time to where I could go see them, sit down and talk to them, and you know, after talking to them, you find out, hey, we're not so different. We're not so different. We're all wanting the same thing. We're wanting to move in my instance, we want to move Southwest Virginia forward. We want to create jobs. We want a better education for our kids, and wanting a great place for our family to grow up. So, you know, once you sit down and talk to people, you can find out, you may disagree, and you know, I think most people disagree on about 10%. You know, that gets probably, a lot of times that gets, you know, people think you disagree on everything, but it's probably about 10% of what we disagree on, and it's something that we need to talk about. But as it relates to the whole process, you all are all very, you know, good at what you do, and when you have a piece of legislation or you have a budget amendment, my suggestion is you don't wait until the last minute till the legislator, either your delegate or senator, is already in Richmond. That you go see them in their home office. You're their constituent. Make sure that you see them, you talk to them, and bring your talking points. Get a one sheet of paper talking point and give it to them. Believe me, if it's more than 2 or 3 pages, they're not going to read it. That's just the way it works, because they lose every day with just so many different papers. If you've got their cell number, if you're that good a friend with them, you know, just text them to remind them, or call them to remind them about your particular issue, because they're going to remember you, that you came and met with them in their district office, that you did. Because when you get to Richmond, if you know, I know some of you try to get in, you know, some of you try to get into me, and there'll be 7 or 8 people out there about different things, but we always want to hear from back home about what's going on, budget, or what we need, or how this particular budget action is hurting localities. But it's something that you need to do early. And also another thing that I would encourage you to do is invite the legislator to meet with your supervisors. Say, hey, come to a meeting, or come to a particular, you know, we want to talk to you about a particular subject. If you would come to the meeting, I know that's worked well. I've actually visited Scott and Wise County and Lee County all about certain issues, and go and talk in front of the whole board. It gives an opportunity for some back and forth. I mean, it's in the public domain, but it's still a good way to talk about issues. And don't always assume that what your, I'll say this, what VACO says is their priority. It may not be a priority for your particular locality. You know, Fairfax may want something, and Montgomery County it may not actually work in Montgomery County, and you may want a different solution. So try to come up with a solution to that particular issue. And also, one thing that I would suggest is have both the pros of that particular issue and the cons for that particular issue. Well, here's the pros for that particular issue, blah, 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 but now here's the cons, that, you know, it could, you know, could close one of these schools or something. You know, always tell a legislator something like that before they, before you get their support on anything. But you know, that's my brief overview. I'm going to turn it over to Bob here real quick, let him go through some of his talking points, and then we'll take questions and comments and things of that nature. There you go.
Well, the good news is Terry covered it all, so I'm good. I'm just kidding. I think Chris asked me to, I'm in a unique position, my first year in the General Assembly. I'm just leaving local government for 6 years. Just talk a little bit about, you know, that first session experience. So, you know, I would say similar to being a supervisor, the vast majority of the work is not in Richmond. It's when you get home, it's handling those hundreds of, you know, constituent concerns, and it is nice to have a member of staff who's able to help with that, you know, because you have around 80,000 people, so it's kind of hard to keep up with. I will say that I really did value crossover. You know, as a local elected, you might have an idea or an issue that you really want to push forward, but there's really no sense of urgency. It might take you 3 years to get the rest of your colleagues to realize, hey, maybe we should do something. With crossover, I mean, it's sitting on the calendar, and if you don't get your stuff out of the house by crossover, it dies. So that, I don't know how you could create a sense of urgency like that, but that was something that definitely was different for me. You know, we all get technology down there, and you can actually, you know, read all your bills, and you can ask each other to co-patron stuff. You could choose to do it electronically, but one of the things I learned from a couple mentors like Terry and Bobby Orrick was, you know, just do it the old-fashioned way. So the very first bill I had and I wanted to get some co-patrons, I took the sheet and ran out the door, and the staff was like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I gotta go get some co-patrons." And it was a really good chance to sit down with people and really get to understand what they cared about, and help them understand why this bill was important to me. So I think that was a really good lesson learned from some of the people that have been there for a while. And also, if you're in a county where you happen to represent a portion of a county, you don't vote for just that portion, you vote for your whole county. And I think that's something I've hopefully carried on to the General Assembly, and trying to understand, like Southwest Virginia. This is the guy that knows really the pulse of what's going on down there. So it's very important for those of us in big counties that are growing really quickly to still remember that some of the things we enjoy have not made it to all Virginians. So I think we have a pretty good partnership when it comes to the urban and rural, within our caucus at least. A couple things that surprised me. We always talk about unfunded mandates here, and I have to tell you, even in our caucus meetings, that word comes up all the time. People are like, "Whoa, do we really want to do this? I mean, this is an unfunded mandate." So I was actually pleasantly surprised to hear how many things died or went away because of that worry about the unfunded mandates, because I just assumed they didn't care, honestly, to be quite frank with you. But I was surprised. I really was. So we're going to continue to do that and keep that. There's some that are unavoidable. I mean, that's going to happen now and then. And then the other thing is, I was taking a bill around for the Children's Services Act, and a lot of delegates said, "Well, how do my localities feel about that?" That's the first thing they asked me. What do my localities think? They kind of know where VACO is, but they don't necessarily know where their individual locality is, which is what Terry was kind of alluding to. But it was good to know that was really on the forefront of what they wanted to know before I even gave them the spiel on my bill. So just know that there's a good number of people that have that in mind. Terry mentioned a couple things, that local governments do well. I have a city now, and it tends to be from the other party, so there was not a lot of interaction there. But I'm trying to think of things that maybe add to what Terry said. I've tried to do joint town halls with the local electeds, which has worked out pretty well. We'll have the sheriff come in and do 30 minutes, then the local person will do 30 minutes, and then I'll do 30 minutes from the state. And it's really good that the citizens see that we do talk and we do work, and it is a really good partnership. And it's Richmond, it's not DC. So we need to make sure that people understand and trust that the right conversations are taking place. So I think that's a suggestion I would throw out there. Stratford County actually has a legislative committee within the Board of Supervisors. So when the session starts, it's fast and furious. So they actually have 2 members that they've all agreed to that will be my point of contact, for lack of a better term. So if something comes up very quickly, it makes it out of subcommittee by surprise, because that happens sometimes. You thought a bill was going to die, and all of a sudden you really have to deal with it. I know I can have those 2 people on speed dial, so that would be something to consider. And then they're usually the 2 that lead putting together the legislative platform for the locality, and not all, the city doesn't have one of those. So they have a couple of paragraphs, but no specific items that they really want me to work on. So the legislative committee would be, I think, an actionable item if you don't already have something like that. And then the other thing, there was a wireless bill. It's actually funny because we were kind of on the opposite sides of that. But one of the takeaways I have for you guys is a couple of delegates said, "Well, yeah, I got the same boilerplate resolution from this county that VACO told them to pass, so I don't really know if it really matters to them or not." So I would say, if you have one of those, please tailor it to your community. Say, okay, here's the gist of it, but in Lee County, this is what it really means to us, and this is why it's important. I think that gives it a little bit more attention, and the legislators will certainly know that you had your personal touch on that. It really does matter to you. So that's actionable as well. And the other thing is, if you can't support a position, give us a couple ideas on some changes, and maybe you could get there. There are quite a lot of bills that actually end up with substitutes or amendments, and every once in a while, at the local level, how many times have you were on the losing side, but you at least made it a little better, and you felt better about it. So that's something I think is very useful to us as well. And then, reach out to other delegates too. It doesn't have to just be, in your neck of the woods. If there's like a CSA bill, that will save us all some money. So I would say don't hesitate to reach out across the state and say, hey, if you need help down here, from the local level, that, we can help talk to delegates and stuff like that. So just a couple of takeaways and my general feelings on my first session.
One thing that I was going to mention on he brought up the telecommunications, the cell tower bill. One thing that really helped a lot was VACO really, VACO and BML played a big role in, while they didn't support it, still at the end, they made a lot of changes that made it a lot more palatable and made it workable for them, because the way it was introduced, it probably wouldn't have worked. And what I do with a lot of legislation, especially in commerce and labor, if the parties are, if I've got warring parties against each other, but one party wants to kill the bill, one party wants to pass the bill, I'll stick them in a room and say, hey, okay, you're going to stay in this room. Y'all meet and come up. Then I'll bring them back in about 3 or 4 days later. What y'all find out? And then we'll look at it and say, okay, and I just start making calls. I say, okay, this is good. That's not good. And but everybody gets to have a say and move the bill forward, or sometimes the bill dies anyway. But that's one way that I think works well in the General Assembly. And we got 3,000 bills, or over 3,000 bills each year, and then a budget that keeps growing and growing. The difference in us in Washington is that we have to balance a budget. We have to fund sheriff's offices, schools, send money back to localities. We have to do that. We cannot just be disagreeable and say we're not moving forward. And that's why I always say that no's not a solution in Richmond. You gotta get there, and sometimes you gotta make some votes you don't necessarily feel comfortable with, and just move the ball down the court so that government can operate. Because it puts you all in a bind. I don't know, when we had those years when we have no budget, it puts you all in a bind because you all can't figure out, hey, how we're going to fund this or how we're going to fund that, because you don't know from us. So we have to, we have to come up with solutions, and sometimes you'll see that from a lot of us that, oh gosh, we got to do something. So you're not going to see Bob or myself. I think we're not in the no caucus that absolutely lets no on everything, but we know that we have to move the state forward. So. All right, and I thought we'd take some questions, comments. So, yes.
All right. So, I had the great privilege of working on the Hill a lot through my industry. And one of the big things that I've learned since being elected as Board of Supervisor is obviously we have a lot of constraints as to how creative we can get to solving our problems. And I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. And
start with a D.
Yes.
Start with a D. End and N. Dillon rule.
And it's really painful, especially in today's world where we're being mandated for affordable housing. Basically the government's saying, hey guys, you need to figure out something in the planning districts. Start figuring out what we're going to do for affordable housing. And the city of Charlottesville can't get too creative unless they get certain, and I can't go into too crazy of a tangent, that having to get approval from you guys. And here down in Nelson County, if we want to get semi-creative, it's things of that nature. We get stuck.
That's such an easy question. A freshman can answer that.
I'm just saying, what are the odds? I'm curious, what has been the nature? Why is it the Dillon rule? Is it a distrust for local government?
Well, the Dillon rule came about, I think, during the bird machine. I mean, it's been around that long, and I think it was a distrust for local governments because they wanted to control everything through Richmond. Everything had to go through Richmond. It didn't matter what it was back then. The machine controlled the whole political dynamics. But it has eroded over the years. We're allowing more and more. But the Dillon rule. Basically going in and putting the bill in that does away with the Dillon rule. I don't know that you want to see that because most legislators think it's a good idea that at least something is has to be brought to our attention. But most of all though, most of the time though, we're very open to ways to improve financing and things of that nature. Most of the time we've been open to that. Ways that whether it's sales tax or something like that, we've been open to some of that.
And look at, and I won't bother anymore after this, but
that's all right.
We look at Nelson County, we got a very prevalent industry, and that's obviously tourism and the adult beverage industry. And we look at, man, how could we get creative while we have some of the best East Coast breweries over here. And, you know, how can we tax that, even though the state's already there, and take some of the burden off of our local folks, you know? And it's things of that nature where we get creative and find out different solutions that would basically, you know, alleviate that impoverishedness that we kind of suffer with.
Right. I come from a home rule state, and one of the downsides to that is, as a business person, it becomes this hodgepodge of, you know, everybody's now competing with each other. So if you put a tax on that, perhaps it drives those guys to the county next door, and now they tax it. So it does create quite an issue for our competitiveness. There's not many things I like about Dillon Rule, but that is one of those things where people pretty much know there's a baseline set of rules no matter where they locate in the Commonwealth. But yeah, it's definitely an issue.
It's just a rant.
Oh, that's fine. Who else has a question? In the very back. Oh my goodness, this could be hard to.
One of the things that, you know, in my work that local governments have trouble understand is there are very different speed with which the General Assembly works compared to local government, notice requirements and things like that. So the bill will be on the docket this afternoon, but here tomorrow morning, and that's something that a lot of local, we represent three local governments, and that's something a lot of local government people are unprepared for, the speed with which things move and how quickly you've got to be prepared to respond.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely new to me. One of the things that, you know, when these substitutes would come up, or these amendments, you know, to me, coming from local government, we give our community time to read those, and there's just literally no time for that. So that was one of the things where I was really surprised. I mean, you literally, it would be passed out to you, and you kind of have to make a decision out of it. If there was a lot of implications, we were usually successful at least getting it held over to the next subcommittee meeting, but that was definitely different.
And you make up a good point. You know, sometimes you have subcommittees in the morning, and then the full committee will meet that afternoon, or in Commerce and Labor, for example, our subcommittee meets after full committee, and then the next day, if it comes out of that committee, it's on. That is a big difference in local government and the state government. We've only got so many days that we can consider House bills, or we can consider the budget bill on the House side. So there's just so many days that we can do that, and we're told, as chairman, we're told to move things as fast as you can. And sometimes we do have irate local government, irate citizens who come up and say, "Oh my God, how did I miss that?" I just say, "Catch it on the Senate side," and the Senate will always say, "Catch it on the House side." But that's the other good thing. It does have to pass both houses, but. You know, it does move at lightning speed, and that's why it's so important that your contact begin early and not. And I know sometimes it has to happen late because you don't know. Sometimes you don't find out about an issue until it's already filed, and somebody's filed something, and it's going to affect your county or your locality. So you know, I understand that, but if it's a big ask for your locality, or you want to change something, you got to start doing that early instead of later.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Are you on the Baco's email list? Yes.
I help generate some.
He generates it.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
But I was thinking, you know, during the General Assembly session, you know, I get text messages from Breakout and where we can call our senators and delegates and, you know, tell them our views on certain topics.
I didn't unsubscribe, so I get those too.
Oh, you're cheating.
That's how I got a leg up on it.
Yeah, that's right. All right, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry I came in late.
Oh, that's fine. Did you win a prize?
Yes.
Okay. All right, good, all right.
Won several, so I'm feeling really lucky.
All right.
One of the concerns I have in understanding operations at the state level as a local, I'm the vice chairman of York County Board of Supervisors, and is the influence that a person outside of your district might have on an issue. You know, Senator Norman's our senator down there, and he obviously has a lot of influence, but he still has to go through the drill that everybody else does on issues. And you've heard about our issues with oysters and how things were popping up and whatnot. But I had a delegate once tell me, Melanie Rapp,
Yeah.
when she was a delegate, she says, Tom, it's hard to listen to someone that's not in my district. You know? I mean, I trust her.
Yeah.
Listen, it's just, she's really good. Can you kind of give me, from your point of view, how does that play out for you guys?
Well, I mean, in my point of view, if I tell my staff, if someone's from Southwest Virginia, and I draw Southwest Virginia from Salem West, I don't include Roanoke or anything, but anyway, if someone's from Southwest Virginia and have an issue, they move to the front of the line so I can see what their concerns are concerning a piece of legislation. But then, you know, I think we all look at how it's going to affect statewide, and, you know, we listen to it because a lot of issues, you know, primarily, you know, some of these urban issues, suburban issues, you know, I don't know a lot about them, so I have to rely on Bob and other folks to know what exactly we're talking. If something's in Fairfax County, I got to ask somebody what's going on. What are we talking about? Because I have no idea. So yeah, you have to listen to a lot of different voices. For, you know, down in the peninsula. I mean, I went to school down there years ago, but my gosh, I don't know. That place has changed a lot since I went down there.
Yeah, being a software guy, I of course build a system that my staff uses, and they log every piece of input, whether it's a constituent or not. Now I can see if it is a constituent, you know, but it's very important. I kind of opened with the fact that if you're a district supervisor, you don't vote just your district, you vote the whole county. So we have to do the same thing. There's bills that come up about fishing down in Chesapeake that I have no idea. So I did rely on people like from Margaret Ranson's district,
exactly,
to send my way, like, hey Margaret, you know, can you get me somebody who's down there in the know? And it's very important.
Well, there's always a danger that somehow it will trickle up into your district.
Yeah.
You know, but you just got to be able to put all the pieces together. And one of the issues, I think Senator Hanger talked about that a little bit this morning, is that counties, not unlike cities, are missing some taxing authority that would be really nice to have. But what we're hearing a lot is that the delegates and senators from the west side of the state, you know, it's kind of like it appears that you're supporting a tax, you know, you're supporting the tax philosophy, but in truth, when we're on the eastern side of the state, you know, we rely on what? Real estate.
Right.
I mean, so we're having to jack up the real estate to compensate for whatever comes down from the state as an unfunded mandate, you know, and so that's kind of an important issue. So I would say to you, hey, can you support that for us? Let us have the same tax.
That's fine. Just grab me in a hall.
Well, actually, Senator Norman had a pretty big tax bill concerning, you know, the triangle down there, and there was a lot of people, I think, that would not normally support that held their nose and said, okay, it's the right thing for that region.
Yes.
I voted for it.
And it caused, you know, he's catching some grief about it, but
yeah,
so that offset some of the tax issues. But for your county, for example, that made a campaign statement. That is the highest tax of the counties in the state of Virginia is in York County. It's 7 cents, 7%. But what people don't realize, of that 7%, York County is 2.
Oh, geez.
So, I mean, so there's these little imaginations of stuff, but if we could have had the cigarette tax or something like the city of Newport News or Hampton, whatever, we could have possibly gotten around that. But that would have required providing all the counties with that same taxing authority, which we don't have today. I mean, that's sort of kind of say, so as a person in York County, you guys are on the west side, I'm just going, hey, can you support that? Think about it.
Yeah.
I have a question that relates to the 2016 proper legislation. And, you know, that one seemed to roll through so fast. And local governments really didn't get an opportunity to do their homework on that legislation that affected us immensely and continues to stifle development in Prince William County, for instance. Can you just explain, I mean, how did that happen so quickly when that bill had so many ramifications? And we worked so hard on our legislative priorities, you know, getting ready for the General Assembly, and yet that wasn't even on our radar.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's not the only bill, but maybe explain yourself.
Bob just checked out 2016. Well, mean, it's the nature of the beast because everything moves so fast. And I'll tell you, a lot of us in the western part of the state, we do not understand, do not deal with proffers. I mean, you know, we didn't even have zoning in some of my counties when I first got to the General Assembly. We do now, but we don't understand, you know, had no dealings whatsoever with it. So, you know, it just moves so fast because of the way the system is just set up. And yeah, I know, and we didn't even know. I mean, Breakout and others didn't. I don't think they were in a catch-up the whole time on that bill, if I recall correctly. It was just going. Who paid for that? I forgot who paid for that now, but I think it was Todd Gilbert.
It was by design that there was no advance notice.
Oh, Todd Gilbert did that, maybe? They got a lot of zoning proffers up in Shenandoah County, I'm sure.
Yeah, really. So you know,
it's just
because it went so quickly. You know, you didn't have time to get an honest assessment of what the impact was going to be. No promises, but I'm working on a fix to bring us back towards the middle and at least open up conversations and remove the risk of being sued just for having a conversation. I'm optimistic we'll find something in the middle there. I don't ever think Vaco and the builders would be like, yay, this is great, but you know, if we find something where everybody's like, this is better than what we rushed through last time, that would be
or as a judge told me, if both parties hate it, it's probably a good resolution.
I just want to say that was a good question because what light bulb went off in my head. I guess we can take, you know, we can table something and think about it. It sounds like you guys don't have that.
We got to either vote it up or down, or in last year we can carry things over. But once you carry it over, you might as well it dies anyway because nobody comes back and meets.
You can delay also, right? You can delay it.
We can delay it a week.
It doesn't usually go more than a week because there's so many bills that as chairman he's got to get through there. One time I think they let me hold something over, and that was 3 days. So it doesn't happen that often.
You guys are uniquely situated to kind of opine as from the legislative standpoint. How do you legislate when you look at the disparity between the Northern Virginia and Southwest Virginia? Each of you situated in one. I mean, Bob could look and say, God, you know, that Southwest Virginia is just the neediest group of people. That, you know, the rest of us are just bursting at the seams, and these people can't even wake up. And then Terry could look back and say, you know, we've got a lot of hard-working people that are doing a lot of the same things that just don't get the growth and development. How do you guys look at the others' current condition as legislators?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty easy. I mean, we're Commonwealth. You know, that's the way I always look at it. You know, what's usually good for Northern Virginia or Eastern Virginia Tidewater usually helps the whole state, and it helps Southwest Virginia because you're building those resources for Southwest Virginia. When we go to the legislature with a problem, or you know, all of us Southwest guys, we always come united. We're one. We speak with one voice and say, "Here's our problem. Help us solve it." Like for example, some of the school funding last year, and the Fairfax County folks stepped up and helped us with the school funding, and we got a pot of money for that. So you just have to consider that each part of the state is different. Each have different needs. I voted for the transportation bill to help Northern Virginia. It did help me any. I mean, you know, not going to help me any, but they need roads up there to get people to work, and that's our economy. If Fairfax County and Loudoun County is not doing well, then I've got a $500 to $600 million deficit in the budget. So that's how we get around it. You got to think like that. You got to think globally instead of parochially, I guess is what I'm saying. You got to think that everything, you know, it should be good. Now, when you get into, you know, some issues like guns and stuff like that, you know, that's, you know, you start losing people, that's not going to work. But
it's one of those things where, you know, one locality decided that they wanted to let people, you know, people carry guns to protect the school, which is perfectly fine. Yeah, perfectly fine for their county. You know, Fairfax, that probably wouldn't even be a conversation topic. So trying to legislate and allow that to happen, you know, and legislate those two completely different counties is a challenge for sure. But, you know, I think you're going to see Interstate 81. We're finally at least acknowledging that there's a huge problem. And I'm certain that there's those of us along the 95 corridor that are going to be there for these guys when the time comes. to get something done and share the lessons learned, what worked for us. The transportation authorities, how is that working, what's good, what's bad, and by the time we get there. But Terry hit the nail on the head. If Fairfax County's economy turns down, we have a big problem because they send a lot more money to Richmond than they get back. So it's
Don't tell them that. Don't
yeah,
tell them that.
but things that work well for them, it does trickle down to everybody. So it's very. But community colleges, I think that's one of the things that kind of ties all of our regions together.
Right.
They're like the backbone, and it doesn't matter which one you visit. They're all trying to get those workers in that don't need a college degree. We have the same problem in Stratford that they have down there, and if we can get those people high-paying jobs without strapping them down with a bunch of college debt, then that's great for Southwest Virginia. Very great.
Yes.
Okay, so in planning for Virginia's future, I'm thinking about, people keep referring to money being out there and, all that good stuff. I went earlier to an economic development conference, and it sounds like there are going to be some recommendations coming to you all about how to really pull things together so Virginia can get right back up to the top as being the best place to do business. How do you all see maybe that investment coming, how do you see that sort of forming? Are you just going to sort of wait for the report and then see where it goes? It sounded like there are going to be a lot of really good ideas about site development and about, having a group of individuals that will be able to come in and train a workforce if you were to get a company. And I know in Southwest Virginia, we have some land, we have some spots.
We do.
How do you see that happening? Do you think there'll be an investment?
I absolutely think there's going to be investment. Let me say one thing. I'm so impressed with what's going on at DEDP. Finally, I think we've got a gentleman there that gets it. Stephen Murray, I think he's a rock star. I think he gets what he's doing. When we first hired Stephen Murray, I called and checked with some of my friends down in Louisiana, and they knew, and they said, "Oh my, how'd y'all get it?" So I think he knows what he's doing, and I think we as legislators need to work with the EDP to make sure that we implement this plan, because he's got a way that, and we do need to be back #1 or at least in the top 5, and we can be. But I think it's going to require us to look at our tax code. It's going to require us to put a chunk of money into it. Now it's, when you go to Georgia, when you go to North Carolina, you go to Tennessee, they're just putting wads of money to a company and saying, here, bring those 5,000 jobs here. And I don't know how many times I can tell you that we've come in second and third to big projects big auto park projects that we've had in Southside and Southwest Virginia, because we didn't have that big pot of money that we could put on a particular project. So I think we're going to start doing it. I think you'll see some movement this year. I think we're going to have to have a plan. We got to have more product. We got to have those bigger. We got to have those bigger industrial parks, those bigger pieces of land, where that we can put a big investment on. So we're going to have to start making those calls, and I think we'll start doing it this year.
Yeah, and another thing, we always hear that small businesses are the backbone, but all these incentives are usually geared towards these huge companies. But I think we've seen a couple this year from the governor that are really small 20 and 30 person job, and I think we need to make sure that we keep that mix there, because the investment in 20 jobs could turn into 2,000, which is a 10-fold return on investment. So as long as we don't go too far towards the big ones. And I think those are a little bit easier wins too, because there's not as much infrastructure required. You don't have to have those as a local government, of course you want to extend water and sewer ahead of time, but it's so expensive to do that, and it's not like you can build a $20 million extension of your sewer hoping they'll come. So it's tough.
And one thing we've been working on too is selling Southwest Virginia as a cheaper place to do business, as a cost savings. We talked to folks in Palo Alto about, hey, if you need a data center, if you need something somewhere else, you can run that data center for about a third of what you can run out there. Plus, your employees are going to have a better quality of life. They're going to be able to kayak, hunt, whatever they need to do in their off time hike. So we've been selling that and getting some good response. So I think that's what we have to do, and also work with our Northern Virginia folks in Fairfax, saying if you've got back office opportunities, we want to be considered for those.
Any other questions?
All right. So
All right, we'll give you another one. Oh, he came back.
All right, so. I said no more rebuttals. On another topic, law enforcement. Obviously, the comp board, we gave a little bit of a pay raise to our deputies. I'm sure Southwest Virginia can cater to what I'm about to say. Here in Nelson County, we fight with the prices of Charlottesville and Albemarle, which are almost, these guys are getting real money. They get $60,000 to $70,000 deputy. So we're down here in Nelson County, we got to figure out how to make up the difference just to be competitive. And, and then on top of that, you have the Virginia Department, or VSP, Virginia State Police, getting paid even more than that. So then our local sheriff's department gets stuck down here with we're trying to scrounge up money so we can, make sure people aren't trying to figure out how to pay for a loaf of bread and get a bullet in it.
Yeah.
We actually had a deputy quick to work at McDonald's.
That's right. You have to become a manager at McDonald's. It's more.
Yeah.
So my father-in-law retired from Stratford County Sheriff's Office, so I have a good relationship with that group. I actually carried the budget amendment that started out as a reaction to the VSP, that huge bump they had, recognizing that we were going to have these recruiting and retention problems. Started out as a $2,000 bump for all deputies in a primary and law enforcement role, so not the sheriff's office in the city. And I fought that battle and got a little bit scarred up. But in the end, those are the guys that are out there doing the job. Not to take away from the court deputies, we all have those as well. But that primary law enforcement responsibility. Now that ended up in the conference process becoming a bump to the starting pay, which didn't necessarily help everybody. But I also had another budget amendment that I'm working on to at least fund the ratio that we're supposed to fund. Believe it or not, Loudoun County is 114 deputies behind. So, I mean, they're the worst case scenario. Stratford County is like 14. So, I'm not under any assumption that we'll do all that in 1 year. But I don't see why we can't just make a little bit of progress every year. At least get back to the ratios we say are what's required for the population.
And that's a good point. We lose a lot of our law enforcement to not only the Virginia State Police, but to our prisons. We got a federal prison in Lee County. We lose them there, or they go over to Kingsport, Tennessee, or Bristol, Tennessee, where they're getting paid a lot more. So I'm very committed on the sheriff's offices to make sure that we try to bring them up and keep working on that. We have to do that.
A couple of things. One thing, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. But I would also appreciate it if you would please not send any more unfunded mandates. Because it does make it extremely difficult, and I'm sure you know that. The other thing that I attended our Colonial Services Board legislative breakfast recently, and they were talking about how Medicaid expansion is really not going to work well for them. One, they have a very tenuous group where filling out paperwork and that type of thing may not work. People may come once for a visit, twice, and they may not be looking at any type of reimbursement. The General Assembly apparently has passed something where the amount of services that they are supposed to be offering is going to increase, but the money hasn't been put there yet. And so we have stepped up. I'm from James City County.
Okay.
We've stepped up. Our area is stepping up, but the budget is already being cut by the Commonwealth. Even though the money for Medicaid expansion hasn't started coming through, they've lost that money. So we're hoping that Senator Norman is going to, his aide was there and has been asking questions. So we hope we're going to get some help, but I would just ask that as you go into your new session and moving forward that you look at some of that, because they are losing quite a bit of money based on the fact that everybody is going to qualify for Medicaid expansion. And most likely, I think the statistics they told us at the breakfast was out of 72, maybe, wasn't Tom was there. It was very little that were actually going to end up qualifying, but they are being cut based on a huge percentage. So,
Well, like you know, be rest assured that there's going to be a lot of changes as we move into the expansion, Medicaid expansion, because you know, we had to do that fast to get a budget. I mean, you know, it didn't seem like fast to you all, I'm sure, but you know, there's a lot of things that we'll need to address. There are a lot of things we're going to have to address as we move forward. So I'd say that make sure you bring those concerns to your particular legislators, and with Tommy, I'm sure that he'll be able to help us see what we need to do. But by all means, make sure you do that, because I don't think we thought when we passed Medicaid expansion that we got everything right, because it's such a big area.
Yeah, I always tell people that, you know, that compromise bill is just the very beginning. Now, it's really incumbent upon us to make sure it works. You know, the administration, the paperwork that goes with Medicaid is a big deal. One of my concerns is I wouldn't have enough providers to take the new patients on. So one of the things we've done in Fredericksburg is we have a free clinic that's never taken Medicaid dollars before. And the hospital, who was used to filing this paperwork, they've kind of partnered and said, look, we're going to train you guys very quickly on how to do that. So now the free clinic is now going to be a provider as well.
Right.
But I know even the secretary today mentioned that exact issue you're talking about. They know it's an estimate, and I think it's on everybody's radar. If for some reason that doesn't occur, that's part of that $900 million bucket they're saying we have to keep a close eye on. One of my other concerns was your local social services department is going to have an increased workload. So I get a monthly call with my constituents in Stratford County. Having just come from there, I have those relationships, but not every delegate, you know, and senator will. But so far, you know, the workload on him has been less than the extra money that we've provided, so it's actually helped with their existing caseload. I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but it's at least making me feel a little comfortable that that extra money we sent for those couple of positions is so far, at least in Stratford County, working out. But we're going to have to keep monitoring for sure.
Just to add to that, I would say for you, because I know you get this bow wave of bills that pour in, but anytime you hear that colonial behavioral health, that thing comes up, I mean, it's got tied to Medicare, you know, it's a lot of work, but down in not necessarily the bowels, but just on how they evaluate the criteria for awarding the money and the use of it, according to our director, they were wrong. I mean, they're just out of date. And so if you tie all that together and you think, okay, because in the end, what's happening in Virginia is, and we're not by far the worst, we're totally disjointed in services. I mean, there's gaps, and people fall to these gaps all the time, and they end up in prison. And there's where you get the huge costs. So savings on the front end with this is when you hear it, regarding the criteria part, it's all screwed up.
Thank you.
Dan?
Terry did something when we started about coming before the meetings, and Terry has come before the Board of Supervisors. One thing he did, and if he had come, I probably wouldn't have gone with it. It was the performance contracting, and so he came and convinced us we need to do that, and we did. But going back to reiterate what she's talking about the Medicaid expansion, I'm on the Board of Directors of Country Health Services. We have 5 providers. We have about 40 people working there. And so we're meeting, just in our county alone, we have about 1,400 people that this is going to affect that will get health care through that. They did a pie chart once about all the zip codes, the people we treat. We're in the northern part of Scott County, and we're getting Dixon County, Wise County, Russell County, Lee County, even some out of Tennessee are coming for their health care there. And so we're trying to, we don't know what it's going to be, and how many people are going to get new that need health care that we're going to be serving. That facility, they do the sliding fee, which people with their income based on that's how they pay. But this Medicaid expansion, I don't know if anybody knows exactly what it's going to be. We just know in Scott County, 1,400 people that it could apply to.
Right.
So we get the people from the surrounding county, but you have 5, the 1 doctor, 4 nurse practitioners, and all the other things that goes along with that. We have the digital x-rays, we can do a lot, and they know that. And so they're coming there, but we don't know if we're going to be overwhelmed with it. We've already got approaching 4,000 patients that's come to that facility. And as Terry knows, he was there back in this year. It's it's a pretty remote location, but people are coming to it, so I don't know what the impact is going to be when we get the influx of these people. And we have a great facility there. I've been on that board for a long time. I'm chairman of the board right now, and it's just really big, what it's grown into. And so, anyway, I don't know, and I knew this Medicaid expansion was going to happen. So when I got doubts about it both ways, yay or nay, whether it should happen or not. But anyway, it's happened. It's going to, we're getting it, but I don't know where we're going to shake out as far as treating all these people. They're going to come. I think a lot of the 1,400s in Scott County probably have some sort of health care. Maybe they won't come, but they'll be going someplace. We're the only health provider there in half the county.
That's right.
And so you go toward Tennessee or Gate City, they're there. In Wise County, they're there. But still, these people are coming because we do have the sliding fee. So you come and you pay according to your ability to pay, which is a great thing. Believe me, it really is a good thing. But anyway, it's something to comment. And I do think we come to our board and convincing us about performance contracting, and Terry came and we voted to do it, and they said guaranteed savings first year was $289,000. We say $407,000.
See?
Efficiency. They said it would pay for itself. I was, doubting Thomas. I said, Terry, I don't know. But we went with it, and thank you for coming doing that. But I know when they first started, the school system said, I asked them before they gave us the official numbers, and the guy said, I'm afraid to tell you not to go God. He said, well, it's doing better than we thought, but I don't want to jinx it or anything. But he said, we'll come before your board, and we'll tell you what it's doing. So anyway, it's a really, really good program, and it's saving a lot of money. And it's paying for itself through efficiency and so on. But I think you
I paid for that, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you did. So anyway, thank y'all for what you do. Thank you for your service too. Appreciate y'all.
We'll take one more question.
I got a little bit different question. Lauren, from Floyd County. We're just outside of Blacksburg, maybe 30 miles from it.
I was just through there Saturday.
What?
Yeah.
I saw you at the winery not too long ago.
Yeah, that's right.
But anyway, we're thinking about trying to expand our career technical as a way, career technical education at the high school.
Yeah.
Do you see anything coming from the state that's moving that direction for the high school, for high school education?
Oh, absolutely. I think we spent a whole generation or two generations telling everybody they have to go to college and they have to get a 4-year degree, and that's not the case. There are a lot of high-paid jobs out there that are technically trained, and I think you're seeing a lot of folks are putting in a lot more bills on career and technical education that are more streamlined opportunities, and where we can get some more work back into the high schools. I'm working with a group right now who's trying to work with some of our high schools to go in and start working on computer programming and things like that. That doesn't necessarily need a college degree, but.
Yeah, and we've enabled the community colleges, again, back to that backbone. Stafford County, if you're going to be an auto mechanic, we didn't offer that at all 5 high schools, so now the community college has a great facility to do that in. But the other thing to keep in mind is, you can do it as a regional collective as well. Sometimes that's the easiest way to get something started. Everybody pays it just a little bit to see how it might work.
It's a little bit far out there between places. So it's a long way between Rocky Mountain, Floyd, or Patrick.
Not as a crow flies, but as
you go, it is. But yeah, I think you're going to see a new investments in career tech.
I have a cybersecurity company, and that's what I do in my day job. And I always have at least 5 or 6 openings at Quantico. Can't find people. And it's the most frustrating thing in the world because that's revenue that's just every day. Just the work that's not getting done in the Marine Corps Navy space. So it's important stuff, and we just can't find people to do it.
As we move forward, as my county moves forward, we're talking about over the next couple of years, maybe building some space, hiring some teachers. Is there anything, do you see anything as far as from the budget from the state that would be flowing into that particular part of should we expect any kind of money, or should we be looking at this as we have to do this already?
It's hard to say. It depends on if it's workforce training, if you can paint it as workforce training, maybe there might be some opportunities there. So that's how I would work on that project. Back to you, Tim.
I want to thank Delegate Kilgore and Delegate Thomas for coming today. I know we expanded on our topic here, and I really appreciate them sitting here and taking questions. And You know, they really showed that how they care about their jobs. And, you know, there's not many questions they can't answer. So I appreciate them coming, and I appreciate everybody in here coming. We have, this is the last session this afternoon. We have some committee things that we have to do. But thank y'all for coming. I hope y'all have had a wonderful time here at the homestead and got to see all the vendors and stuff here. But again, we've had a wonderful time this past couple of days.
When you fill out that value